Good morning, East Texas. It's time to rise and shine with the sun. The Grand Saline sun. Right here on VZTV. Grab your coffee and come join the fun.
Welcome to this week. We weren't on air yesterday. We had a lot of things going on. I tell you what, this weekend was crazy. First and foremost, we want to say thank you to all the first responders and the veterans that were out there at the August 8th event, the East Texas Heroes at First Monday grounds. We were out there this weekend. It was a great show, and I actually had video that I was going to try to get to it. We'll try to get it plugged in the thing tomorrow. But over the weekend, man, this thing sort of went haywire. I got a couple videos slapped into my lap. One of them has been out for a few weeks now, and I hadn't just seen it until my buddy Ryan over here sent it to me. He said, "Have you seen this?" And then another one, several people dropped in my lap. I'm still working on that. It's about an hour and a half long, and so 2 hours, something like that anyway. So I'm still working on that one. It's a courtroom video that's been blowing up the internet. But today we've got something a little bit different going on. And before we get to that, I want to do my smoke signals real quick. That way I can lay out sort of what you are about to see. All righty. Well, what we're going to see today is a little bit of bad behavior on all party sides, but what we got to remember is we are dealing with government here, and government is like anything else, and government grows. And so as I watched the video of our guest today, Michael Jarrett, and his interaction with Van PD, it got me to thinking some thoughts. And so I started looking sort of around the world, and I started wanting to put us in a gauge. So if you will bear with me as Bert overthinks this little situation, and I make this even bigger than it really needs to be, but it'll make what we do today a little bit more in context. So I wanted to look and see, okay, when it comes to freedoms and liberties and stuff like that, there was once a wise man said that if you will give up security for your freedom, you do not deserve either. And when we get to talking about our government, we really got to look at what we're talking about. When we say geofencing, we start talking about boundaries and border walls and blah, 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 blah. So I decided I wanted to go and I wanted to look on the across the globe and sort of see some of the extremes. I found North Korea, which we all know how this country lives, and I found the Sentinel Island. And this island is it's inhabited by about 200, they assume, people that have never been encountered by civilized people. They are an indigenous people that are isolated. It's out around India, and India has a border around this place. So on one side of the thing, we have somebody that has no government at all. And then on the other side, we have a government that if you take a picture of the statues of the government leaders and you crop their head off because you're zoomed in too much, you could be put in prison. If you get caught saying something bad about your government, you could be put to death. So when I start talking about the differences between leadership and self-governance down here where we have nothing to the point to where we have too much, we need to look at this in context because we are on a spectrum. Now, if we look at America 50 years ago, 100 years ago, Ryan and I were talking about this before, our freedoms as a child were probably more than the freedoms of the adults today. My son watched the same video that we're about to watch here, and the reaction of myself, Ryan, and Michael were totally opposite of that of my son, which is a different generation. And I had to ask myself, why could we watch the same interaction and get different outcomes? And it goes to what I believe our government wants us to see. Now, this may be out there and be far out there. Ryan's already looking at me like, where are you going with this, Bert? But think about it. My son, at this day, sees something like this, and he sees disturbance. When we see these Senegal people on this island, they are down there, and when people try to approach this island, they go straight to pulling arrows and killing people, missionaries, people that try to deliver them food, people try to deliver them medications, people that tried to help them after a flood that took out probably half the population. Helicopters went over to survey, and they were shooting arrows at the helicopters. They were so protective that they wouldn't even open themselves up for help. Now you go on the other side over here to North Korea. You've got a people that are completely dependent upon this government as you are ranked in this thing. You can be a core person, which are the highest of the highest, or you can be a hostile down here at the bottom. And these are the people that your grandfather or your great-grandfather could have spoke against the government, and you were still classified as this down here. So we need to figure out how we keep our government managed, because we are still a government of, for, and by the people. These people that we encounter with badges on the street, we have to understand they are our representatives on the street to protect us and keep us safe. And when we have an interaction with an officer that is not just, I want to say this, we need men like Michael Jarrett that will stand up and say, you know what, I'm not putting up for it. We need that kind of pushback to keep them in check. But it's something that's difficult to say and teach, because of the simple fact I wouldn't go out there and tell my son to do the exact same thing.
Most people don't know their rights well enough to even know.
And that's exactly where it comes down to. When we see this interaction, my son sat there and said, you know what, I would have gone this way, and this way. Now, I know my son's knowledge of the legal system, and I know it's very minimal. I know Michael Jarrett knows the legal system, because you could see he found his line and he would not cross that line, and he pushed every button he could do.
It's not even the legal system we're talking about. It's our basic fundamental rights.
That's what I'm talking about. But when we talk about our legal system, that right is a legal right. We are protected by force. Ask anybody that's been in the military. The reason why we are who we are today isn't so much because of anything else other than we have force out there that people are afraid of. And we have our enemies out there, and we're afraid of them because they have equal force to what we have, and to take them over is limit. It would take more of a struggle to do them than somebody that has no force or no resistance at all. So therefore, when we look at how everything is gauged and how everything is balanced, it's through force. And when an officer pulls up on you with a badge and a gun on his hip, that is a moment of force that is being displayed. And if you do not know your rights, that force can take your rights and your liberties away, and then you're left up to the mercy of the court system, which we got a whole nother show for that. And we know how that can be messed up. But before we get too far into it, let's jump over here and say hi to Michael. Michael, where are you at today?
We're in Ohio.
Michael's in
Up
Ohio.
here in Ohio.
And if most people don't know, Michael runs a 18-wheeler. When we see the video, we'll see his truck in action on the roadway. But he hauls across the country. And how long have you been a trucker, Michael?
Oh, man. I got my CDL when I was 21.
And so you've been on the road and put a lot of miles down.
Yeah.
And so not only are you familiar with the roadways and had many encounters with law enforcement in your days running up and down the roadways, but you're also a local here in Van. So the interaction with the Van PD, this wasn't a one-off or something that you were just passing through Van and this just happened to happen. Now, Ryan has a theory that poor Jesus Aguilar, the officer that pulled you over, just had really, really bad luck today. Go ahead and say your little theory there, Ryan.
Well, it's hard to calculate the odds with 58,000, according to the DOT, approximately 58,000 cars and trucks in that stretch of I-20. The chances of pulling Michael Jarrett over would be about the same as getting struck twice by lightning and being bitten by a copperhead and a rattlesnake at the same time. So, yeah.
Well, he definitely got bit by me.
Well,
One of my favorite lines were, "Do you know who I am?" And he says, "No, I don't." And he says, "Well, you're about to."
You're about to know who I am.
So anyway, let's go ahead and lay a little bit of background. We were talking before the show. My buddy Ryan over here and you have shared a certain list, a do not pull over list type thing. So basically, y'all are known in the community for not standing down when these guys push at you. So give us a little bit of your history and the background here in Van.
Well, I mean, COVID is what made us come to Van. I mean, we had great careers working in the oil field, and then COVID and our kids were struggling, so we moved to Van. And I guess we've been living there about a month, and they wanted to write an ordinance on campers because there was a dispute between the city and a business owner. And there was no ordinance preventing this business owner from having converted a camper into a mobile store or whatever she had going on.
Allie Stringfellow.
Yeah.
Allie's
Yeah.
camper.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say it.
We were going to call it the Stringfellow ordinance if they got it passed.
She and
So
Allie,
I went
Allie's
door
a
to door.
faithful viewer of the show too. She's always in
Yeah.
here plugging in and leaving comments. So hi, Allie.
Well, I got a 53-foot fifth wheel, you know, and it was our mobile office.
42.
Or, yeah, excuse me, 42-foot fifth wheel. And it was our mobile office at the time when we were moving campers and doing FEMA and stuff like that. So they would have made it where I couldn't, you know, I pay taxes on this thing and I use it, you know, as my business. So I would be in violation if this ordinance had gone through. So we got to talking with people, and I went door to door. I'd only been here a month, barely bought her house. And that's when I got to meet Charles Ryan. So that's a whole nother story.
Look,
on its
I'm
own.
going to tell you right now, okay, I've made this comment before now that my past 2 weeks have been sort of flipped upside down in bass acres. I spent last week talking to Joe Donaldson. This week I'm talking to Michael Jarrett. If Charles Ryan follows suit, I know that things come in threes is all I got to say.
Well,
You
I
never
mean,
know.
we don't talk anymore, so that's a good thing. You know, I've been battling with the city for like some petty stuff. You know what? I mowed my yard first. I can tell you the first time I ever met Chief Davis. I was mowing my yard, minding my own business. That's all I want to do was mow my yard. And now I got a SWAT team at my house. So there are cops everywhere.
There was
I
that
couldn't
time.
figure out what was going on. Come to find out, I left the garage door open, and there was some action going on in the house, and everybody was being distracted. It was when Van had that big lice thing going, and my kids and my daughter and everybody was all wigging out. So they were doing whatever they were doing, and nobody was paying attention to my granddaughter. And she opened the garage door to look at me, and my little dog ran out, and she was standing in the middle of my yard. And now my really good friend, neighbor, at the time we didn't know him, snatched her up out of the middle of our yard. And then here comes Chief Davis. And it was, you know, we explained and showed her the video, you know, this is not what happened, you know, and then she demanded my ID. And I told her that, you know, that's a secondary charge, you know, where's the crime? You seen the video. And she continued, you want to run her jaws, and finally I just had all I can take, and I just called her the C word and walked right into my garage and shut the door behind me. And it's been a battle ever since.
And you said that your son has also had an encounter. You told me about a video that you possess about your son also having an issue. And we also, on that video that we'll watch here in a second, another law enforcement officer that is called to counsel about the legalities of your truck mentions your daughter in the video. So it seems like your relationship goes down the whole family tree, like the whole family's experienced something.
To be clear,
Well,
when Michael says that law enforcement, or that, you know, law enforcement is aware of him in Van, Texas, that's an understatement. Michael Jarrett would probably be at the very top of the list of everybody, just because Michael Jarrett has.
Well, even if you have Facebook, okay, this guy says he didn't know him. I mean, you got it.
No, he knows him.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, come on. I mean, I know Michael. We were not friends on Facebook before this. He and I think have maybe commented. You've commented several times on the page, and I think I've replied back and forth. But like, he and I had never spoke before yesterday, and I knew who Michael Jarrett was, and I knew the pain in the ass that he was to Van.
Even if Officer Aguilera didn't know who Michael Jarrett was, somewhere in his orientation where he missed the part about the handbook and the plates being on trucks and this and that, somewhere he would have been.
When I gave him my name calmly and politely, he said he didn't care.
Well, he didn't care, but that doesn't mean that your name hadn't been mentioned. And I guarantee your name had been mentioned in passing at some point.
It had to have been. I mean, at some
You got to
point.
think about it.
But you know, let's just say, let's give Jesus the benefit of the doubt. He shares a name with my Savior, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Said he wasn't lying there. The actions that he took beyond that point, in my book, and this comes from This comes from a concern of, again, that government overreach and that overstep. Number one, it bothers me that he was ignorant of the law. But number two, the fact that he took an aggressive role, and it was all done in the purpose of agitation. It wasn't done like when he talked about Michael's weight and age and his COPD. It wasn't out of concern. We all know that wasn't out of concern. It's the same thing I tell to my wife, when I'm trying to get under her skin, you need to sit down before you hurt yourself or something like that. I'm trying to prod and poke that button.
Yeah, he was doing the opposite of de-escalating,
Exactly.
which I think is called escalating. But real quickly, before we move on to that, I want to tell everybody kind of how I got to know Michael Jarrett. We were involved in a situation. It was a case, Dominique Horton. It was a very wrongful type arrest. There was some crazy stuff that went on. And I mean, I understood my rights, or I thought I understood my rights. I don't know that I completely was keenly aware of my rights until after I went through this whole thing with Dominique and witnessed and seen firsthand, like through the testimonies and the body cam footage.
Right. And
it became very apparent to me, and it became very apparent to Michael, who was also heavily involved in this. In fact, helped fund some of the lawsuit over it.
Yeah.
It became very apparent that if they could do this to this guy, well, guess who next on the list is?
And
it's Michael and I.
And this wasn't a long time ago. I mean,
No,
we're not talking something
this is 3 years ago.
Yeah, and so let's go ahead and update people on.
It's my neighbors. My neighbors were next on the list, not me. I'm not worried about me. If I don't stand up for what's going on, who is?
Right.
My neighbors, they I don't think they even understand, how bad it was, at one time.
And let's give let's give an update, like a quick overview of that Dominic case. That way we can set this up, because I mean, when we talk, they went all the way to the court system with this guy.
Yeah, so they put out press releases, and they made us out to be the villains, and the very last thing they said in this press release was they would, the court will decide. Not, they didn't even mention where the process is, the punishment. We already knew this was going to get booted out of court.
Right.
But fact of the matter is, the very last thing they said in this press release was they put out a press release to, update all the citizens on what happened. Well, there was crickets after it all went down. I mean, Michael Jarrett's got it was probably one of the most watched YouTube videos in Chris Martin's court.
Right.
I mean, just the lawyer destroyed Melissa Davis, Chief Davis. There's a couple other officers that got up there and testified. And for lack of better words, it was the dumbest thing you've ever seen. Like, I mean, and
there was one officer that couldn't testify.
Yeah, well, there's some officers that quit over it before it even went to court. Like, they just packed their stuff up and left.
Yeah. So when we say that y'all call
didn't one go to jail over it? Literally, was charged because he was willing to do the right thing instead of signing on.
Yeah, that's kind of the rumor, but I can't verify that.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah.
But to say that y'all have caused a ripple in this community before is an understatement, and it was mentioned during the video yesterday that what wound up coming out was the former chief, Melissa Davis, was terminated, and now to make it clear, we have a different chief here now. It's Eric
Chief Doring.
And I have reached out to him. I contacted Van PD the other night, and Dorian is out of town till the 17th. So I told them to relay the message to me, and so we'll see if that happens, because we want the whole story, and we want to cover all sides. We don't want to look like we're biased in any way, but I think the video itself will speak clearly. And I think before we go much further and do much more setup, let's go ahead and watch it and point out some of these key players.
It's a lot of beeps.
Yeah, thank you, Corbin, for doing all the censorship on this. And again, I'm going to say this: kids, don't try this at home.
No.
You asked me to get out. When I told you not to step up on me. Where's your driver's license at? write your citation.
For what?
Where's your license plate in the bag?
You're
Am I now?
come here. It's a Porsche.
Where's your license plate?
Right.
You need one in the back, homeboy. You need one in the back.
Call Jeff.
I ain't gonna call nobody.
Call Jeff
I ain't calling
Hutchison.
nobody. Give me your
I ain't
driver's
giving
license. Give me your driver's. Okay, put your hand down your back there. Stand right there for me. What is your problem, dude?
you. You stopped me for no reason.
Johnny, I'm just in a some amount of traffic right outside of
I don't want to be mean. I have COPD and I'm in trouble. Can you have my wife? Give her about.
Is your wife in there?
Yes.
Okay, so just real quick.
Okay, if you don't get it, I'm gonna pass out. I'm not armed.
By the Fairfield.
Hurry up. Call Jeff Hutchison.
I'm not gonna call Jeff. Is that your wife in there?
Yes. It's co-driver.
10-4 right now. Okay, so
You're an idiot. And I'm gonna say it again, and I'm gonna get that body cam. You're an idiot.
why are you shaking?
COPD, bro, and I'm struggling. And I'm excited because I get that body cam.
Okay, and
Yeah,
what does that mean?
I'm gonna have fun with you.
What does that mean?
You just watch. I am well known in the city of Van.
I don't know
for
you.
not putting up with no bull.
Know you?
You will.
All right, let me get your driver's license.
I ain't got it on me.
Where's it at?
It's in the truck, and you ain't gonna get it until you get a supervisor out here.
I'm not getting a supervisor up here.
Okay, you do know that it's Van's policy that whenever a supervisor is requested, you have to get one.
Is this so?
Yes, sir.
Can you show me?
I don't need to show you. You should know it. It's in a book about this big.
Is it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well,
I
you
am
know,
Michael Mother Jarrett,
I don't care who you are.
but I ain't giving you my license
Okay.
unless you get Jeff
You go to
Hutchison
jail.
out
You better
here
identify that.
or the chief of police. It doesn't matter. If I'm not under arrest or a lawful traffic stop,
This is a
you said I didn't have a license plate on the back.
You're missing one of the bags.
You don't have to have one. It's a commercial vehicle. You don't have to have one. 99% of the time, I'm not required to have two tags.
Okay.
And it's in Indiana, not Texas. And even if I got a driver's license or C1, it would only come with one. You idiot.
Shaking quite hard, man.
Hey, Stacy, throw me my inhaler. It's right there above your head. This stupid son. We need two license plates. He must be originally from California. He wants my ID and I ain't giving it to him.
Okay, you say your first name was Michael?
Yep.
What's your last name?
Jarrett.
Michael Jerry.
Jarrett. Jarrett.
Jarrett, okay. Okay, you said it's out of Indiana? Hey, you need to calm down. You're going to have to hit that inhaler again. You need to relax, man. You need to be cool, calm, and collected like me.
And you're not
Cool. You need to be cool, calm, and collected like me, homeboy.
For under a year. Rookie, you're an idiot.
You need to calm down, man. You're going to have a medical emergency.
I'm probably gonna have a medical emergency.
You're too big. You're too heavy and too short for all that, man. You need to relax.
Man, you don't worry about me, motherfucker.
I am worried about you. I'm worried about your health right now.
Have fun, bro.
I'm worried about your medical health right now, homie. You need to relax. You're too short and too overweight to be acting like that. You need to relax.
Mexican to be doing what?
Is that right?
Maybe.
You still stop, though.
Well, yeah, 'cause I have to.
Yeah, there you go.
But I don't have to.
There you go.
being 0104 05 288.
10-4, stand by.
Hey, Pat, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Michael Jarrett?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I pulled him over up here. So no license plate in the back of his truck. So he's up here cussing up a storm and stuff. It's out of Indiana. Is it required to have 2 license plates? Or is it just with the trailer?
I'm not sure Indiana has to. But it's just his truck. He's been living here well over 6 months.
Just more bad information.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it is this truck. Yeah, he got off the truck.
Let me explain to you. He is
An
an internet nut.
internet nut.
I won't say what I need to say right now. I'll tell you later.
I gotcha.
But,
Yeah, but he's over here. I mean, his inhaler and
his daughter's one works at his daughter's one right beat the truck. It's
the big lifted one. Oh, okay. I don't know either. He's still unidentified at this point, so I called Devontae, but he won't give me his DL, but then again, I don't know,
Return.
Okay, yeah, I ain't worried about it. Just one? Okay, will do. Thanks, sir. All right, Michael, I just double-checked, man. Yeah, you're good.
It doesn't matter. You know I charge $3,500 a second.
I don't care what you
I
say.
know you don't. But I tell you right now, the city will.
I do not
If I
care.
got Chief Davis
I do
gone,
not care.
I suggest you go
You're
find
free to go,
another
sir.
job. Oh,
You're
I know
free to
I'm
go.
free to go, but if
You're
I'm
free
free
to
to go,
go.
I'm free to stay.
You're free to go. Okay, well, I'm going to go. Okay, because
All right.
I got a call to go to.
You have a good
All right,
time.
you take care of that.
What is
Take
that,
care of that.
Alcura? All right. I'll be getting
Aguilera.
that body cam.
Aguilera.
body cam.
First name Jesus, Jes. You need my middle name too, sir?
No, I don't need that. I can
You
get
need
that
my badge
on Tico.
number?
No, I can get that on Tico.
Congratulations, brother. You have a good one, all right?
With people, man.
I'm not.
Grow the fuck up.
I'm not.
And don't let little shit get to you.
Like what?
Like, people actually not breaking the law. If you would, because our town can't afford as many lawsuits as we've lost.
Have a good one.
You're going to lose another one today.
You need to lose some weight. That's what you need to do.
Well, I sure I do need to lose some weight. Right now I'm down 15 pounds and I wasn't.
It don't look like it. It don't look like it. It don't look like it.
Your mom don't complain.
It don't look like it.
All right, good luck. We're going to have fun with you.
That part.
The mom joke at the end.
I was glad. I saw Corby get concerned because a couple of them words made it through there that he obviously missed last night. I want to apologize if you caught the blurbs of them, but I was glad the mom joke got in there. I said that shows our age when we have to throw the mom joke in any sort of back and forth like that. So first and foremost, what I wanted to ask you, Michael, is when you got out of the vehicle and you started your interaction with him, what was his body? Because we don't see his body language as he's approaching you. What was it like when y'all first got out and he told you to get out of the truck? Because I know when you walked up, he said, don't approach me. And of course you said, you told me to come here, and he's like, blah, 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 and then he went on with his spiel.
Stop. Yeah, he stopped. He stopped at the back of my semi. So
Yeah.
I just assumed he was being lazy.
Right.
Or he wanted to have a casual conversation, or, maybe he didn't like the way my daughter's truck looked. I mean, I don't know. I didn't run at him. I, just kind of limbered over to him. And, when he said that, I was like, okay, this is the way it's going.
Yeah.
And then,
You limbered over to him. I mean, you did the best a fat short guy could do. I mean, let's be real about it.
yeah, I don't recall That's what I'm gonna start saying for the rest of the time we're here.
I had.
That's what he's gonna do in the deposition. No, I don't recall.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was really funny, like I said, and it's one of those things that I've noticed a lot. I watch a lot of these videos because even though Ryan and I, and of course you follow one of these First Amendment auditors, and Ryan and I, we both have sort of the same support for the First Amendment, but we sort of look at our approach in protecting it a little bit differently. Both of you guys look at him, y'all admire what he does. Me, I'm like, I want it to be done with caution because I don't want it to be taken out, but you are one of these guys, you know the law, so therefore you're not afraid to push the buttons. At what point in time did you realize that you had the upper hand in this confrontation?
As soon as he said, "Where's your rear license plate?" That's the moment that I realized that he was either incompetent or, like I said, an idiot. Right at that moment, the stop was unlawful. So 3802 is out the window, right? It's got to be a lawful stop, and it has to be, well, you have to be lawfully arrested, or you have to be
lawfully detained
or stopped.
And this is where a lot of people don't understand. You have to have reasonable articulable suspicion to make that stop, which is one bar lower than even probable cause. When that reasonable articulable suspicion evaporates, there is no more stop. There's no more detainment. At that point, they, at the second he realized, you have no authority, and at that point, it turns into just a fishing expedition, or an illegal stop.
And one thing I wanted to point out, when he did tell you put your hands behind your back, he put his hand on you. At that point in time, did you assume you were detained, arrested, or what did you think was going on?
I thought I was taking a trip to go see Tawny Curry.
Yeah, no, that's an arrest. That's an arrest without
arrest.
being vocal.
There's no getting around it. It didn't matter. I wasn't free to go. I was under arrest. I thought I was going to head over to Canton and go see my other friend.
And so this is at the point, and this is at the point that you felt your freedom was about to be taken away, your liberty was ultimately violated, and so you stood up, and I think it's worth pointing out that when he went back to the vehicle to call, the person he called, Pat Jordan, was the man that he spoke with. That him and the ex-chief of police, Van, are in a relationship, so he's literally speaking to the better half of the chief that you got fired, correct?
Yeah, and don't forget, when all this stuff was going on with Chief Davis and Dominic, he literally posted on the internet for me to sell my house and move out of the state.
He did. He absolutely did. He's like, you would be advised to get out of the state of Texas.
And so
go back to California or wherever you were from.
Yeah,
that's the reason,
And of course, during this whole deal, you had no idea that he had talked to Pat at this time. I mean, you didn't know that until after you got the body cam footage, right?
Right. I didn't even know originally who he was even, because I've never really had a conversation with Pat Jordan at all, other than Facebook, and you can't hear that stupid voice on Facebook. So when it comes down to it, it is what it is. It turned out the way it did, and I understand why he couldn't get a hold of Devontae, because after the stop was over and we took off down the interstate heading towards Dallas, Devontae had a vehicle pulled over on the interstate, well outside of town.
And that is another thing that is commonly discussed. You had brought it up at one point about Van PD running interstate and stuff like that. The stop for you, that they do have DOT inspectors out there that would have caught that on the other side. So he sort of stepped into that role when he pulled you over. He said that you failed to identify, but yet when he spoke,
he didn't have to identify.
Well, what my point is, he did identify though, because he asked him what his name was. He said Michael Jarrett.
He wanted the driver's license, so
yeah, and so he says, no, he's failing. Well, you weren't detained or arrested at this point. It was pretty obvious, and so therefore you didn't have the necessary.
No, he was arrested.
Well, but not lawful.
I was arrested. That's why he got.
No, that's a lawful arrest. You don't. The officer doesn't have to say you're under arrest to be. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm talking about
And it doesn't.
the arrest was unlawful because there was no law broken. Is what I'm talking about. Because
yeah.
I mean, at what point, at what law did you break at this point when he told you put your hands behind your back and walk back there? You hadn't
Exactly.
broken any laws. The license plate isn't off your. I mean, you didn't have to have one, so that wasn't a law broken.
In the short walk from Michael's truck to the front of his cruiser, it dawned on him that I have this guy under arrest for something I don't have a charge for.
Yeah. And now I'm going to do something. Now, Corbin is not prepared for this and all this stuff, but as I brought into the smoke signals a while ago, Corbin, kick on your mic. Corbin watched this same video, and he had a total different view of it. And so everybody can say that we're fair. I'm going to let him speak as to you watched it. You had some feelings about it last night. Corbin, what did you think as the stop progressed?
So, in my opinion, I treat everybody with respect. No matter how rough they treat me, it's always big on like I've had somebody spitting in my face, sitting there mad, and when I go, yeah, you're completely right, you're cool, and that tends to piss them off even more.
Right.
But also at the same time, you've taught me how to treat people with respect. I literally call everybody yes ma'am, yes sir, no matter their age, because I treat people with respect. And I was told by Paul one time, with his wise words, if 9 times out of 10, if you treat a cop with respect, they'll treat you back with the same way. It's also the golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated. And I feel like I would have started it a different way. The demeanor that both y'all had was hostile as y'all are walking at each other.
Yeah.
And that set the mood for the whole event, like how this is gonna go. And
so you're basically saying you think it could have been handled completely.
I think it could have been handled a little bit more monotone.
You know what would have happened if it would have been handled differently? If that would have been any other stop than Michael Jarrett? You know what would have happened? It would have turned into a fishing expedition, an illegal stop with a smile on their face.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I wanted him to point out, because there would be 2 different outcomes. Remember, I think I've brought this up to both of you guys. I was a roughneck back in my previous lifetime, and the way you pressure test a BOP is you put pressure behind that BOP and you push it to its limits. And basically, what Michael was he was a BOP tester in that time, because this officer, okay, you look right over the shoulder there and you see interstate. The people that run up and down interstates, you don't know who you're going to get and what you could encounter at any point in time. Now, Michael knew the line he couldn't cross, and so therefore he sit there and tiptoed on it. He, like I like to say, he was so close to the puddle that his socks were getting wet, but yet he did not step in there and get completely on the wrong side. But this officer, as we pointed out, there was no de-escalation in his approach to this. That could, as you brought up about your community, and that could get somebody, let's say words were said. I mean, all it would take one person that was affiliated with, what is the fat activist group out there that, you body shame somebody, next thing you know, Van could literally be in the target of.
They're called Van PD.
Hey. I do not condone the words that
They don't like fat people.
But seriously, there are so many different activist groups out there. You never know. One stop, you could be on Fox News. How many of these small communities wind up on national 24-hour news because of the actions of 1 cop, 2 cops, 3 cops? Next thing you know, a town of 1,500 is known across the globe.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the case here. Van PD actually has some really good officers. DPS has some really good officers. Charlie Lunsford. I mean, that's a man that straight up will stand up for your rights.
And I want to point out and give Van, we're not bashing Van here. You, Michael, said that you wanted that body cam footage. You reached out to somebody in the city government, and go ahead and tell us you're, getting this video footage.
Well, I did. I mean, I reached out to our city manager and told him, hey, I'm fixing to make a request for this. And no arguments. He said, send him an email. And him and the city secretary just combined us in the same email. And I had it by Friday. It went out on, what was that, on Monday when all this went? No. Yeah, was it Monday when all this went down?
To be clear, Jeff
It didn't
Hudgens.
take long. I was really surprised.
Jeff Hudgens gets his name thrown around a lot because not only he was the interim city manager. I think he's now the permanent city manager, but He's also the canine guy, the dog catcher. The Jeff wears like 7 hats, and this isn't
lot
even
of
his full.
hats.
This isn't even his full-time job.
Right.
But one
I
thing
don't
about
even think he even gets paid for a lot of that.
no, I don't
like,
think he does
what
either.
it's
But
worth.
Jeff is very, very, very good at what he does. And
And
had
so-
they actually gotten a hold of Jeff,
Yeah.
it probably wouldn't have gone anywhere where it ended up
Right.
going.
And I wanted to point
No,
out
he
that
corrected it quick.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
And
Jeff is really smart. I have the utmost respect for Jeff, even though he's a police officer. It doesn't matter. Jeff does a lot for our community, and you know, I've had interactions with him, and I don't think we've ever had an argument. And then I witnessed him talking to another person of the city, a community member, and it was over something going on with somebody's house and some electricity and whatnot. And Jeff flat out said, "Look, if I want to go over there as a fire marshal and I want to do this to these people, then I have to do it to everybody." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Jeff is like that. Jeff, like, you know, that's petty, you know, right? So I'm not going to be petty to everybody. So let's don't be petty on that. And that's just the way Jeff is. He treats everybody equally. And I expect, you know, when I deal with Jeff, I speak really kind to him. But
And so-
it was just
and I wanted
this
to put out
video is
Yeah.
not me. That's the 10%. That's whenever I leave my angel in the truck and I walk out with a demon on my shoulder.
right.
You know,
And as you said,
I
you know,
left her in the truck.
yeah, you said she didn't want to be involved in all that, and
Stacy's too pretty to
knew
go
I
to
was
prison.
she's too pretty to go to prison.
Y'all haven't seen my dash cam yet. I was awful happy to be stopped.
Yeah,
I was just giddy. I was like a kid in a candy store because I'd only gone 20 feet. I mean, couldn't have been speeding. Didn't need to use my blinker. I mean, come on. I waited for a bunch of people to go by. It's all on the body. It's all on the dash cam.
and like
So
I
what,
said,
what was going to get me for?
and again, to be fair, you know, where there hasn't been anybody from Van PD, you know, Chief Dorian's out of town. We've reached out, given him an opportunity to contact us. But I did want to point out, I know you get paid by the mile, and you get, how much do you say you get paid per second? And I don't think VZTV quite has that budget to cover you sitting here for too long.
You got to keep in mind there's emotional duress involved in this too. So it's not, I mean, there's a lot of different factors in calculating it.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and
So if it would have been 10 minutes, a total of 10 minutes, it would have been $17,776.
That's what I was-
1776.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get down to. You said that your all this could be put to rest and all that. Go ahead and lay out your talking point on that.
Well, I mean, plain and simple. If they fire him, which is probably not going to happen, if he resigns, I won't sue, flat out. You know, and it's not about the number, right? Everything has a number, but the number is 1776. That it's got to be, you know, it's founding 250 years of freedom, and I almost got my freedom taken away because of incompetence. That's what it comes down to. So, I mean, if
You did
I
have
do
your
send out
you
my
did have
letter
your freedom
and-
taken away.
Well, it could have been way worse. Okay, so Connie Curry doesn't like me. She's out the door, so there's no telling what I would have gone through. And then you got our chief is incompetent, just like our last one. I wouldn't say incompetent. I guess that's not fair because he did get put into the position. And I remember the day he got the position, I asked him if he knew what 3802 was, and he said no. So, you know, I don't have nothing against our new chief. I think he's going to get better. But there's another video out there where when I was going through all that stuff in Hawkins, Texas, when I got rid of, well, I really didn't get rid of them. The city council got rid of their last police officer in Hawkins. And the city councilman reached out to our wonderful chief of police. Have y'all seen that video?
Yes.
I
The
haven't
body
seen that
cam
one.
of that one?
Yeah, he filmed it, which was brilliant, and I was kind of proud of the whole phone call.
Okay, give me a rundown.
Yeah.
I missed it.
you slacking.
I must be.
I got a lot of stuff on my YouTube.
They're trying to drag him into a situation he wasn't having no part of it.
Yeah, he wasn't gonna have anything to do with it. So he did not have anything bad to say, but he did make it clear that I was internet problem. You know, I made problems on the internet, and that I stirred up the city council and so on and so forth. And whenever this Eric Malloy with Hawkins, he made a comment saying he talked to the sheriff's department, which I got documentation saying that they don't have any call logs where he called the sheriff's office. He doesn't have any with the fire department. And then when I made the public records request for him talking to the Van PD, I joke you not, I thought it was going to come back with no records found. And whenever they said, hey, it's a $3 and something charge, I was thinking, what is this, a piece of paper? And they gave me a flash drive or a CD, because now they do flash drives. I'm glad they upgraded flash drives. But I got a CD, and I was just flabbergasted. And it's unreal. I mean, he was like, well, I want to make a public statement and say this and that and bring you up. And he's like, hold up, wait a minute.
Chief's like, you can just leave me out of this.
Yeah. Well, I've known, and I've had some. He used to be a Grand Saline PD officer, and I've known Chief Dorian back then. Now, since he's been over here, I haven't had much interaction with him. But back then, he seemed like a reasonable guy. I'm assuming he hasn't changed much. I'm hoping he reaches out to me. If nothing else, talks to me off the record. I know that at some point in times they can't speak on things, and he may be told not to. But
so one thing that phone call really outlined is how government officials will collaborate with other government officials to retaliate, like straight up retaliate.
Yeah.
And this is the whole underlying problem. Like, you know, somebody might be scared. Like, you know, Michael Jarrett didn't want to go stand in front of Tonda Curry because she don't like him.
Right.
Well, that's pretty sad, because not liking somebody shouldn't be a reason to not stand in front of them. They should treat the law equally.
Well, and as you can tell,
it doesn't work that way.
By his roadside interaction there, he doesn't fear standing up for himself. But there's a situation when you do not want to do it because your fear is legitimately there.
Yeah, and the fact that they're talking about his daughter in the phone call conversation.
Yeah.
The only reason they're talking about his daughter is because anybody in Michael's family can be a retaliatory piece if they want them to be.
Right.
And that's concerning. This is why people have to stand up for their rights. This is why they have to stand up and say, no bueno, we're not going to do this.
Well, and Michael, this video, when did you release it out, and how many views has it gotten so far? Because this thing has blown up pretty big on the internet.
You talking about the deal with the Van PD?
Yeah.
Well, I've had it for a month, and I haven't been home. So the one little chinky copy I had was like basically someone was playing it on their computer, and then I was recording on FaceTime, right?
Uh-huh.
So finally we got it. I got it uploaded. I had a friend upload it to my YouTube, and I didn't think nothing of it. I said, she's like, "What do you want me to do this and that?" And I said, "No, just make it public, and I'll work on it on this end." And 2 hours later, it was already on its motion to just where it is today. It was really weird ride.
Yeah, I think it's got over. Doesn't the total views on that? Isn't it over 3 million?
Yeah, it's over 3 million. And that's not even counting TikTok.
I would say that was just one video I saw. That one guy that you did the interview with, he had over 3 million, I think, and then the other ones were still hitting up around multiple thousands.
Yeah, and this is just in a couple of days. This is in 3 days.
And it was funny how you mentioned 1776, and this happened right after July 4th. Y'all had just come in to celebrate July 4th, and so I mean, it's sort of symbolic that the number 1776 is what you put on this. You said you've typed up a letter for the city, right?
Yeah, we got the letter. We got the letter typed. It'll be 1776 around in there somewheres. I'm sure they're gonna just say no, and then we'll go from there. But I was worried. My biggest worry of the suit is the language. What jury wants to sit and listen to all that language, right?
Right.
And but it's not about the language. It's about the stop. It's about the detainment. It's not about either one of ours demeanor. It's the principle of the matter.
The judicial
That's the best way of
system,
putting it.
yeah, the judicial system does not recognize emotion.
Right.
Right.
And
in a way it does. This is the 5th district. It's like building a house of cards, and then while you're on the ocean, that qualified immunity is a little tough to get over.
well, and this is how I
But
look at.
luckily, I got glue.
Now, I'm a man that I try not to cuss. I try to keep a clean mouth, and we don't broadcast cuss words on our stuff. But I look at it this way: when an officer is doing a felony stop or they're arresting somebody, they got somebody at gunpoint. Are they talking to you nice and sweet and all this stuff? They're talking to someone they feel is a criminal breaking the law, and they're using force and violence to get this person into submission, to back down, to stop, and not to be submissive. Basically what you were doing the same thing. You saw an encroachment, a possible crime being committed, and you did the exact same thing. You'd use their tactic against them. Get on the ground, MF, or the blah, 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 blah. Well, what you were doing, you didn't have the authority to tell him to get on the ground, turn around, put his hands on his back, but you're like, oh, heck no, I'm not going down easy either.
Right.
And so...
Yeah, I don't recall.
And so, well, do you have regrets using that kind of language in that situation?
I think my only regret was there's a local resident. I'm not gonna mention names, but she's kind of like my mom from down here, and I have my mom up in Colorado. After the fact, I was worried. And then when I got that phone call, all I heard was, "I want your autograph," and I could have sworn I was going to get a punch you in. But in reality, no, I think it sent a message. I'm hoping it didn't make things worse because I'm concerned about my daughter. My daughter is like your son.
Yeah,
she is very yes sir, no sir. She's really complacent. I mean. And then on top of that, she's 19,
right?
And she carries a firearm. She has a concealed carry permit. So when they run her driver's license or run, it comes back. She has a concealed carry.
Right.
And so I'm hoping that they don't retaliate against her because she doesn't know how to keep that butt end of her truck up in the air.
Well,
they called it a lifted truck. It's a lifted squatted truck.
Oh, that's your daughter. Okay, yeah. They had the California squat going through town. I think I've seen it.
God.
She makes you proud.
Just to see sparks going down the road.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, maybe by bringing it out into the public conversation like this, it won't be so easy. And like I said, let's give them the benefit of the doubt until they prove otherwise. Because, as you said, you want a better community, and I believe that the only way we get a better community is assuming the best out of our neighbor and assuming that's going to be handled appropriately. And until it's not, let's work on that assumption. Does that work for everybody? Ryan's like, hell no.
But
The problem.
I want to live in a small town.
Right, me too.
I mean, I do because Ryan understands. There was a moment where they literally wanted to adopt almost every single ordinance that Arlington had.
Right.
Every single ordinance. And there was stupid stuff in there. And stuff that if I wouldn't have brought up, I don't think Ernie Burns would have known that he was going to have his rental properties inspected every time he was going to re-rent them, pay a fee from the city. I mean, there was a lot of really stupid stuff that was in there. Parking ordinances,
driveway ordinances. It was a collage of bad stuff.
Stupid. It was big city stuff. We're 2,700.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then where are they at now? E-bikes. One kid is ignorant, and hopefully nothing happens to him. Now they want to write an ordinance on it?
Well, that
really?
I spoke to Sheriff Bridger about that this weekend. I told him, I said, I have a feeling that conversation's coming because, we already have the conversations about the side-by-sides. And that's something that's always going on in the background. And them e-bikes, you're starting to see them pop up more and more and more. And And I'm wondering where they're going to start putting him at.
The conversation is this Thursday at Van City Council, and they did something that they haven't done in a really long time. Jeff Hudgens started by putting out not necessarily a poll, but he was looking for feedback on this, and then Councilman Bill Dwyer did the same thing. He's like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" You know, and Bill in his post basically said, "Yeah, I'm for doing this type of ordinance." And I'm not for having any more ordinances. There's already laws on the books.
Bicycle.
Yeah.
There's laws. There's already laws for bicycles.
I mean, if you catch a kid breaking the law, you catch a kid breaking the law, throw him in the squad car, haul him down to county lockup, and hope that they, don't get a capital punishment.
Right.
At some points, parents got to start being parents. But anyways, that's far removed from Michael Jarrett.
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation.
Unless Michael was driving an e-bike, and then it would be illegal.
Hey, you know what? I want to see him on one of them little pit
but I do
bikes.
drive the stuffing out of my golf cart.
Yeah.
All over town.
All
and
over
they
town.
can't stand it. It's registered.
I think they're coming for you.
Insurance, all 9 yards.
Well, Michael, I appreciate you coming on the show today. We appreciate you. Keep us updated on this, and we'll let you get back on the road, sir. And we'll get over here. We're going to go start throwing out some lunch specials and telling people where they can find some good lunch, and then we'll let y'all get on with the day. So thank you, Michael. Y'all have a good one. Be safe out there, sir.
Thanks, Michael.
You too, bud. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Well, Ryan, I know that you probably have a little input you want to put on that. I didn't want to hold him up too long because he gets paid by the mile. And so
1776.
Yeah, 1776. So what do you think about as a van resident? What do you think about that interaction right there?
Well, so regardless of what I think, there's going to be two reactions to that. And I already know this. There's going to be people that say, that, Michael provoked that. It was all on Michael. It was Michael's fault. They're, support the, back the blues, support the police. Michael and I agree on a lot of things. Michael and I, like Todd Eddington, I've had this same conversation with him. We're all kind of trying to get to the end goal. I think between all three of us, we do it drastically different. Would I have talked differently when I got out of the truck? I probably would have been more scared, to be honest with you.
Right.
But we would have come to the same conclusion, probably in a different manner. Fact of the matter is, the second that officer is basically infringing on Michael's rights, good for Michael for standing up.
Right.
And really, it doesn't matter how he does that. The First Amendment protects that speech.
Yep.
The difference is you can be profanity is protected. Yep. Obscenity is not.
Well, and the thing that I noticed right off the bat, and this is one of the things that always, and it's funny how nobody really ever mentions it, but when he walks up, he says, "Hey, man, don't walk up on me." See,
you asked him to get out.
I watch a lot of these videos, and like I saw one, there was a guy that they were arresting for DWI, and he blew a 0.00. He passed all the tests, but they still wound up arresting him because he says, "If you arrested me, I'm going to sue you." And it become a pissing contest, and he wound up in cuffs and getting arrested.
Well, retaliatory.
Yeah, and the cop had him up against the car, and the guy was trying to talk to his lawyer on the phone because he had managed to get the phone dialed before the cop got his arms and put them behind his back and said, "You're under arrest." And he was waiting for the phone to ring, and the cop grabbed him, pulled him back, and then slammed him back up against the truck and said, "Hey, quit resisting."
Yeah.
And when I see something like that, that's what really stuck out to me, because the term he failed to identify, but yet he asked, "Who is Michael Jarrett?" So he obviously knew, and he got the name wrong, and Michael didn't tell him, leave it at Jarrett. He said, "No, Jarrett," and he spelled it for him. In my book, he did not fail to identify in any form or fashion, but the way it was presented from that point. And now I will say this.
It was a cacophony of bad stuff all the way through. And then when he finally got an officer, he got Pat Jordan on the phone. Then he relayed
bad information.
He relayed bad information. It wasn't a personal vehicle. He didn't even say. He just said, "Hey, this guy don't have a rear license plate on his truck." In Pat Jordan's defense, Pat Jordan just assumes, so Pat probably was thinking, well, why is he pulling over 18-wheelers? So Pat just assumed it was his personal vehicle, and
right.
Pat would know that.
And to Pat's defense, like you and I talked about, he ought to assume he's being recorded at all times. But the fact that, he didn't know he was being recorded in that moment when he was setting the stage. But another thing that I guess this is the biggest thing I have with how Pat handled that was he was sort of framing the guy that was in front of him on the stop in a way that I don't feel was quite. I don't think it added a positive de-escalate. This guy's an internet nut. His daughter's this, And when you do that, that's setting this guy up. This guy's setting a framework in his head of how this stop is going to go.
While we have all these officers that do an amazing job, we have the 1 or 2% that absolutely wipe all of that out.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that,
And like I said, I'm not casting stones at Pat because he could have just been warning this guy, hey, dude, you got a wild one on your hands right here. You better be careful. That may have been because, like I said, Pat didn't know he was being recorded, but this guy, not only when he did that, but then he took the role of the aggressor, the agitator, and you and I talked about, if this had happened in any other situation to where, let's say it had been mentally ill somebody on the side of the road and he got in this spat. Next thing you know, there's bullets flying. He thinks the guy had a gun. He was adding excitement to a stop that needed excitement pulled out.
That excitement was retaliation, and that's what happens when you start creating a fuss or you're loud or and they know who you are and you're on their list. Well, that's what that list is all about. That list isn't about. It's not there so that they can talk about you. They're looking for stuff.
Yeah,
they are looking for stuff, and they're not just looking for stuff about you. They're looking for stuff about your family. The fact that they brought up Michael Jarrett's daughter, clearly shows that she's already a topic of conversation. They're looking for anything that they can retaliate with or against, and once again, I'm just gonna clarify. That's not all the police officers. We have some police officers that are doing an amazing job. They don't get wrapped up in this, long lasting, finding dirt on people to do things, but there are some.
Yeah. And to be clear, what is your take? Do you think that Jesus knew Jarrett and pulled him over intentionally, knew him once he saw him and introduced himself? Or do you think this kid was just blindsided from the word go and 3 million views later, he's an internet star?
No, at some point in the phone call conversation with Pat Jordan, and it might have been after he took him off speakerphone, at some point a light bulb went off in his head. And it wasn't because Pat Jordan said turn him loose or do anything else. There was an aha moment where he's like, oh, okay, well, not only do I remember who Michael Jarrett is, I also have him stopped wrongfully on the side of the road right now. So they tried to end that immediately, but he might not have known who he was, but he remembered who he was at some point.
Right. Well, I guarantee you won't never forget who Michael Jarrett is.
Michael made good on that. He's like, you might not know who I am now, but you're about to.
Yeah. Well, I was just curious because I thought it was funny how he goes back and he sits down in the car and he talks to Pat. When he comes out, okay, Michael, you're free to go. Like they had just been bros, just doing little jabs at each other before before this whole interaction. And I sort of snickered a little bit. He was making fun of Michael for shaking. And when he was on the phone, you could see his hand the adrenaline was pumping in old boy. So, he was, we could see him shaking too.
Yeah, well,
that shows that the heightened blood pressures and the awarenesses and all this stuff, the energies, that is opposite of de-escalation. When the lights and sirens went on, they didn't go downhill from there; they went uphill from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was no attempt at de-escalation whatsoever. I mean, there was a few laughs at the end, but that wasn't like laugh. That was nervous laughter.
Yeah. That was two guys having a pissing contest, and after it's all over and they can't go no more, they sit there and look at each other, and they're both covered in piss. They both got it all over their britches, and they're sitting there like,
I'm surprised they didn't try to arrest Michael for interference.
Well, and as Michael said more than once, he says he's glad he didn't get shot. He's glad he didn't get tased.
It could have gone that way too.
Literally, when we're talking about people that have a firearm on their side, I mean, literally, that could have gone bad. There are cops out there that would have probably put a taser out there on him. I mean, that would have probably grabbed a lot more viewers, but you know, we have to settle for a yo mama joke. But
yeah, I mean, I think Officer Aguilera realized at some point Michael wasn't just jacking around. He wasn't acting tough because he was. He was walking the line because he could, and he knew that he should.
yeah. Now I've voiced my disappointment in the Aguilera's approach, but I'm not a citizen of Van, so therefore I have no say. But you are a citizen of Van. As a citizen of Van, do you have a message to the boy?
Yeah, you should probably resign. I mean, there's probably another.
rocks?
Yeah, I mean, we don't need that here. It concerns me, and we watched this with the chief in one of her affidavits that had to do with Dominique, where she
Yeah.
absolutely did not understand the law. She didn't know the law to which she wrote the affidavit on. If you're going to be out there pulling over big rigs on I-20, and I mean, this is a whole nother point of having our city cops that city taxpayers fund
Right.
out on the interstate outside of city limits. But at the very minimum, if you're going to be stopping big trucks, I mean, you need to have a basic fundamental grasp of what the most basic laws are,
DOT laws.
such as they don't have a license plate on the back of them.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just opening yourself up. Well, not just for a lawsuit, it turns every stop into a point of contention because it's not lawful. From the second you pull somebody over for something that's not lawful, it's unlawful.
Yeah. And as I've always said, you know, as a journalist, it's my job to be unseen. You know, I tell the story, but I'm not supposed to be involved in my story. Now, of course, now we got this whole freaking broadcast thing going on where I'm out here in 4K. But when law enforcement and anytime your government interaction, it ought to be very rare, and it ought to be initiated by you unless you're breaking a law. And in this case, this was initiated by the government, and it wasn't for a crime that was being committed. And then once the interaction went on, the government agent was an aggressor and an antagonizer.
So, yes, and I'll tell you what happens in 99.9% of these stops. These stops happen all the time. This stop came to a weird end because of Michael Jarrett. Michael Jarrett knew his rights.
Right.
Most people don't understand their rights. They don't know what those rights are. And what happens on these types of stops where you have an officer that's either, number one, doing the stop with intent to be malicious, or number two is uneducated. Those are the two reasons these stops happen.
Right.
Well, they continue on, and people not like Corbin, but if you're being polite and you're trying to use your best attitude possible, all you're doing is authorizing your rights to be taken away from you, and they're doing it with a smile. They're going through your stuff. They're going through everything that you have. It's called a fishing expedition.
Yeah.
The minute that reasonable articulable suspicion is off the table, the stop's done.
Yeah.
And if they continue on with that, which some officers do, it's bad.
I take it like, okay, this is sort of how I look at Corbin's generation, and Michael said even his daughter, 19 years old, that generation, they grew up with social media. You give up personal liberties every day on social media. Every time you log in, your personal information's attached to all these things with all this metadata and all this good stuff. They're used to going out there and, you know, there'll be a poll for a laugh.
It's
you
to
know,
sell ads.
And exactly. And so this generation has been raised up just freely giving this stuff away. And when we say, hey, you know, does it bother you at all that you're giving up your liberties, your rights, you're being traced and tracked and all this stuff? They're like, nah, I mean, and you and I, like I pointed out, you know, we are old enough that we had attachment to generations that still World War II generation. You know, our World War I was the older generation when we were kids, so we were still talking to people that had. Let's look at the Korea. You know, I brought up North and South Korea. As you see the dynamics of that over the years, you know, it's a very interesting country because it was all part of Japan until World War II. Bam, we come in here. I mean, World War I. Then we come in there. Americans split North and South Korea with a ruler and a National Geographic map. Bam. And at one point, the Soviets come in, China pushed it down, took all over North, and then the Americans come in and pushed them back up. And, you know, it has been a crazy history of that. And if we don't watch out, we're going to be subject to people who are maneuvering for us.
Yeah, so we have to be very careful. And I mean, with the whole, I mean, we've been hearing about flock cameras, right?
Yeah.
So, and people, you hear this argument over and over and over again. They're like, well, they're already tracking you on your cell phone. They're already getting that information.
Yeah.
Well, there's a big difference. There's a huge difference. The people that are getting your information on your cell phone, they're using that for the purpose of selling ads. And yeah, you're consenting to it. You might not know you're consenting to it, but when you agree to the terms, that 747 pages that you didn't read, it's in there clearly that, yeah, go ahead, take all my information, do with it whatever you want. The difference between that and the other entity using the flock cameras, the government can take that information and use it against you. It's not for advertising.
Oh yeah.
It's not to collect revenue in that way. And to be clear, flock cameras, singular flock camera isn't illegal.
Yeah.
I mean, they have every right to put a camera out there. What's illegal about the whole flock situation is the network.
Yeah.
Any government official, if they want to abuse the system, or even if they don't want to abuse it, they can go in there and immediately track, and not just your vehicle. Like, they can gather information. Those cameras are gathering information on how many people are in the car, what color it is, what are the people doing in the car.
Yeah.
They can put together an entire story. And why is that bad? Well, you know, they can use it to catch criminals. Well, what's the other side of that? When power flips, and it will, what have we just done?
Exactly. Well, and as I tell everybody, our Constitution is only as strong as our weakest Congress. You know, when we have legislators up there that are giving our rights away left and right, and we look at okay, North Korea, and again, they have a pyramid. They have the core up here, which is your leaders, and then you've got a middle class there that has, you know, decent schools or whatever. But they're categorized by the government. You're not like, hey, I want to do this today, and no, you were categorized by your government. When we sit there and you talk about the flock cameras, I look at it as one big entity, because I guarantee you, for every Kmart and Sears and all them boys out there buying your information so they can sell you flip-flops and Crocs, you've also got a government out there that's also buying that same information and plugging it in, and that way they can get a full picture. I mean, Facebook give you a picture of everybody's happy times. But when you got a camera inside of their house, you see their good times and their bad times. Ring videos catch people falling and tripping and all that stuff all the time. When you get a full picture of how people act in distress, how people act happy, how people act amongst each other, how the respect they treat amongst their family, their neighbors, blah, blah, blah.
Combine that with AI.
And you take all that and you put it with your flock driving, so you know where these people, not only how they live in their personal lives, but where they travel, their habits and all this stuff, their associates. And before you know it, we have got a movement coming across that are openly, now used to, if you talked about socialism and stuff like that, people would say, oh, you're just, you know, this is America. That ain't going to happen here. Now we see these people not shying away from terms like socialism and communism.
No,
and
they're embracing it.
And they're getting elected. Now, go back to what I said. Our rights, our liberties are only as founded as our weakest Congress, because our Congress comes in and they take our liberties and freedoms away.
They've been eroding those rights and freedoms
every law.
Every time there's a power change, they erode it a little bit more. But I'll tell you what, no one, and I'm a Republican. If I'm to classify myself, I would be a Republican. I wouldn't fall into the Democrat side at all. No one has done more damage to our individual rights and freedoms than the Republicans.
Oh, and that's what I sort of laugh at. I don't know how many times you've been working, so you've been away from the show, but I'm like, we sit there and brag about Texas being a free state. Well, yeah, go buy you a joint down at the gas station. Oh, you can't do that. Hey, go get an abortion. I mean, I'm not saying I'm for that or not, but I mean, go get your abortion. Go do this. Go do that. Texas tell you, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. But we give you your guns. We'll give you your guns and your beer.
We're legislating every right that we ever had. We're putting caveats on those rights, little by little, bit by bit. And it's until people actually start to stand up. And, you know, a lot of people are like, well, you know, I don't need to exercise my rights. They're inherent. They're mine. I'm never going to lose them. Fact of the matter is, every time we let our government tread on those or take a little bit, we're not getting those back. And you may think that you're on the right side of everything right now. And I completely get this from the whole Dominique Horton case. I was one of those people. I'm like, you know, I watch these videos, these First Amendment auditors and whatnot. And I'm like, those guys are rejects. They got no business out there creating a fuss like that until the whole Dominique Horton thing rolled along. And I was like, oh, wow, this does matter if you're involved. If you're involved and, you know, well, I didn't do anything wrong. You don't have to do anything wrong to get involved. And Michael Jarrett was a prime example of that. You could be a law-abiding citizen driving down the street. And although, you know, the reason they stopped Michael is very minor, fact of the matter is they have the power to do that. And if you let him get away with it, that power increases exponentially every time. just has to stop.
Yeah, and one thing that I think, and it's really scared because, you know, I brought up how Corbin's generation, how they've grown up giving their liberties away one thing at a time. But so wait, how many laws go into effect every year on November or January 1st? You always hear it. Oh, how many laws go into effect and how many drop off the books?
Yeah.
You know, now we're talking about we're adding laws, and now our enforcement has gotten more all-encompassing. Used to, you could speed down the highway, and if you had a radar detector, you had a cop on the other side of the hill. Beep, 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 beep. You slow down, you go by them. If they had the new one out, you got busted, you went and bought you a better radar detector, and you went out there. But your supervision was minimized.
Yeah.
Then they come in with these cameras, and they put them on the highways, and they put red light cameras up, and then these things hit the Supreme Court. Now, you can't do that, so they started ripping them down. Now we've got flock cameras.
Well, yeah, Texas Supreme Court. So Texas is one of the few places we don't do DUI checks, and we don't do red light cameras because they're unconstitutional. Other states allow that kind of behavior. And that's pretty sad. That's in direct violation of the Constitution.
Yeah, and you know we talk about checkpoints. I mean, come on, how much more North Korea do you need? Because I watch people. You can actually go in and buy a tour through North Korea if you want to. Now it's very structured. You're watched the whole time.
Well, what's funny is we haven't outlawed checkpoints. We absolutely still have them on the south border. If you're driving down, if you're driving down I-10, you're going to go through a checkpoint. Now there are some people that don't put up with that either. I don't know how many videos are out there. There's people that pull up to those customs CBP, Customs and Border Patrol checkpoints, and they're just like, am I being detained? I mean, that's the first words out of their mouth. Am I being detained? And you can tell the officers that understand the rights as they're sworn to uphold them. They're like, no, sir, continue on.
Well, and one thing that I think needs to be, and I've got this right here, and Courtney Jackson's been blowing up our conversation. She says it's an anti-state, among other things. We can go back and read those later. But one thing that
we're going to be part Israeli before we're done.
Well, you know, if we don't watch it, we're giving our freedoms away.
We already signed our military up to work with Israeli military. So, I mean, I guess we just as well.
Well, it depends on how far back you want to go. You know, the certain conspiracy theorists, they think that we've been in bed with them.
Those 10 hat guys are starting to have permanent hats now.
You know, I've always looked
They're not wrong.
Today's conspiracy is just tomorrow's truth. I mean, that's literally how I've looked at it. And I've been called a loon a lot, but what I wanted to say is the you know, with these cell phones that we have right here, you know, dash cams, body cams, everything out there, everybody in the internet sphere's got a video camera on you right now. So as a police officer, you should, if you're a doctor, are you going to go into surgery not knowing what an appendix is because you didn't pay attention that day at school and just go in there and say, oh, I think this is an appendix? The ignorance that he did not know the law in that moment in time, that is what really bothers me. Why are we sending someone that can take our liberty and our freedom away and they're not fully qualified? That showed to me that he wasn't fully qualified to be patrolling that day because of the simple fact that he did not know the most basic law. And he had the ability to arrest Michael. I mean, if he hadn't have backed up, gone back there and called Pat, if he'd have just kept him going and put him in the back seat.
You know, I could let that slide if he didn't know the law. Like, that seems kind of absolutely ridiculous that he didn't know. Like, he'd stop a big truck without knowing there was a plate on the back.
Right.
You know, honestly, I'd probably let that slide. The part that I won't let slide is where he violated Michael's rights, and there can't be any give on that. You do that, you're done.
Yeah, you have to toe the line. I
mean,
there's
you're
a
just
reason.
Done. You're done at that point.
There's a reason why our liberties and our freedoms are written in blood.
Yes.
And we have to take this serious. We have to because if it's like the school bully. If that sucker, if he realizes you're not going to do anything when he gives you a noogie the day before, he's going to give you a wedgie the following day. And if you don't do nothing, your wedgie's going to become an atomic wedgie. Then next thing you know, you're going to get a swirly. And next thing you know, you're going to be tripped in the mud puddles. And I mean, it's just, it's all escalating. And
you always have the best analogies, Bert.
Well, I try to,
that's just not something I could even come up with.
But you know, used to, our Second Amendment was given to us to keep our government at bay. Well, as I've said before, today our Second Amendment's moot. I mean, I pull out a gun against my government, there's a drone in the air that's going to come down. And as a matter of fact, I saw now, you don't even have to have a big drone. You can have one about this size, got a explosion on it. Bam, old Bert's gone. But we have this. We have exposure. We have VZTV. We got people with mouths that are willing to speak up. And now if they see it happening, bam, Now we just have to educate everybody with a cell phone. Now we have to get to people knowing what they're doing and how to do it appropriately, because if we don't do it, if we approach it with the complete passivity that some of these younger people want to do, our rights are going to erode even faster than they ever were.
The bottom line is, I mean, obviously it'd be really nice if law enforcement had a way better understanding of how our rights and freedoms work. But the bottom line is, every citizen, the onus is upon them to educate themselves on their rights. CJ Grissom put on a online seminar. He's a lawyer out of Temple, Texas, big civil rights guy. Man, $40, and I mean, the stuff he covered to me was a little bit basic, but there was a lot of people in that class that had no idea about the stuff he was talking about, and I was a little flabbergasted. I was just surprised that people, by the questions they were asking, I was like, holy cow.
Well, and I go back to that. How many laws pass every year? Every law erodes a liberty. And so when people get to thinking about their rights and stuff like that, honestly, I don't even think people really even know how to even start to because I had an officer one time. We were young. I was a young punk, surprise, surprise, and we bought some IBC root beer. And we were driving around, and every time we would see a cop, and mind you, I had a car full of kids. Every time we'd see a cop, we'd all be like, act like we were drinking. We'd pull it down real fast. And well, sure enough, it didn't take 5 minutes before one of them flipped a UE and pulled us over. He pulled up. We were all laughing, and we stopped laughing the moment he says, "You don't think I can find something to arrest you for, boy?"
Yeah.
And I went, "How?" And that has stuck with me all these years.
That's a fishing expedition.
And that's one of those things where, if you don't know your rights and you don't know what they cannot get you for, you could fall victim to that.
Yeah.
That
know your rights.
Violation.
I mean, Texas is not a stop and ID state. There's a lot of states that are not, which means an officer can't just come up to you and ask for your identification. They can't do these things because they have to have suspicion that you're either committing a crime or you're about to commit a crime. And if that suspicion isn't there, I mean, you can have consensual conversation all you want.
Right.
But you got to keep in mind a very good officer. And this is where, when I said earlier that some of these officers will violate your rights on intent, it's for their investigation. I mean, they're using every trick that they know to try to get you penned up in a situation that maybe you probably don't need to be in.
And I will say this, because the reason why that boy is the way he is, because I've always taught him to respect law enforcement.
You should be respectful regardless.
And I've always told him, and I'm very proud of him for being vocal on that. He didn't have to come on here and speak his voice. I'm proud of him for that, because I've always told him, and I've said it to him many times too. The interaction you have with a police officer is totally dependent upon how you treat that officer 90% of the time. Now, you got your guys, but what I've seen in the comments here as I've been sort of watching, I've been seeing sort of a split. I've been getting some that says it was totally handled wrong on both sides. And to me, I will say, yeah, I do think at that point in time, in that whole situation, I don't like the fact that the guy did not know, to me, the license plate.
Michael's speech is protected under his First Amendment.
Well, it is. I know. Well, just because you can doesn't mean you should. No. Sometimes, that's what I'm saying. And as Michael said, what jury wants to hear it? You get to hear a little bit in his voice that, maybe if I could have approached it a little bit more differently. But, if we all start coming at this, again, I go back to that officer. Number one, he's in control of that scene. He's got the gun and the badge. He's got the flashy lights and the woo-woo. So he's in control of that scene. And when he is trying to make it sound like he was de-escalating in a facetious and sarcastic way, that was not a productive approach to how that should have gone. And that's where, to me, the main fault lies. Again, did he do anything illegal or wrong aside from pulling over a truck that didn't need a back license plate? Him going back and forth with Michael wasn't, I guess.
It wasn't productive at all.
Exactly. There was nothing beneficial that came
out of that.
And
if he was trying to hurt Michael's feeling,
yeah.
Like, I don't know that Michael has a feeling that can be hurt that way.
Well, and as we pointed out, Michael's had run-ins with around Van for years now. And so, therefore, his approach may not have been because, there's a history there. When he gets out, I'm well known around Van. If it had been if it had been pulled over in Dallas.
So they've tried to take advantage of Michael in more than one way. Michael wanted to go speak before the city council, and Chief Davis made up a dress code rule on the spot that Michael couldn't address city council unless he took his hat off. He had to hold his hat in his hand in front of him. These are the things that have happened
Right.
to Michael. So when Michael comes out, and I mean, at this point, when Michael was doing that, he submitted.
Yeah.
You know, he's did exactly what he complied
Yeah.
with what they wanted him to do. And he walked out of there, and that was the moment where Michael changed.
Yeah.
Because from that moment on, there was no more complying with what was outside of his basic rights and,
Right.
what his rights are.
Yeah. And and like, as I said, this interaction probably played out differently than, say, if he got pulled over outside of Van Zandt County, somewhere that he isn't known or anything like that. That interaction might have gone completely differently, but because there's a history here, you think so? You think
it would have gone. No, it would have gone the same way. If they're trying to violate Michael's rights, Michael's probably he's going to handle it.
I do believe
exactly
he would
the
have
same way.
called the guy an idiot. I do believe that because the back plate, but he drives all over the place. I don't know. I've meant to ask him how many times he's been pulled over for not having a license plate on the back.
He's been stopped a couple times for various things. And you got to keep in mind, driving a commercial vehicle, every time he crosses the scale, they're either, they don't stop him all the time, but a lot of times they'll do a random paperwork check.
Yeah.
Commercial vehicles operate differently.
Well, I was talking about being pulled over for no license plate on the back. I don't imagine that's happened.
No, that would never happen because I think almost all law enforcement unequivocally know that commercial trucks don't have a license plate on the back, except for one. But
Right.
he knows now.
He knows now. He learned his lesson.
Yeah, he definitely knows that.
Well, this Jason, I can't read it, it's too far away. He said Michael M.F. Jarrett.
Yeah.
That's how he introduced himself on the video. But anyway, like I said, I want to thank Michael for coming on and giving us the input on that. Again, I want to reach out to Van PD and the city of Van, anybody that wants to come on and speak for the city and address the situation. We're not here. I mean, I know that law enforcement has a tough job, but I'll say it again. Everybody knows my past. I'm a 3-time felon that spent my time in TDC and spent a lot of years on probation and parole. Matter of fact, I seen hey, Michael Jarrett said I never broke any laws ever. but I even saw my probation officer in here a while ago, old Larry Gann. Shout out to you, brother. But the government sat there and they know how little my wee is because they have to watch you when you do a UA.
Oh Lord.
And they give you a zero tolerance accountability. I guarantee you, I found out firsthand what happens when that little stick shows a little bit of greenage on that UA. They are zero tolerance.
Yeah.
Well, we are one of those kind of podcasts that, you know what, we believe it's for your betterment. I know that Larry Gann was tough on me because he knows it made me a better man today. Thank you, Larry, for making me a better man. Thank you, Judge Drum and the state of Texas for making me a better man. Well, we're returning the favor. We want y'all to be better men.
And I guess to reiterate, because people, I all the time get called out for not backing the blue, and that's absolutely not true. I do back the blue.
110.
There's going to be times where, or there could be a time at some point where I need to call on them. What I don't back is people that aren't doing their job or are being malicious while they're doing their job. Police officers have power. If they abuse it, they have no business being in there. And the other part of that is get educated. If these officers aren't educated on, our basic fundamental rights and freedoms, we got no business having them.
Well,
We don't need them to be on our force.
Well, there's a reason why we make our kids wait till they're 18 and 21 before they own handguns. And I think it all boils down to this. Oh, Jesus needs to mature up. That was immature. I think that if you're going to be one that has a handgun on your hip and the ability to be the first on the scene, you need maturity. You need to come from your job in a manner of maturity. And that was not maturity. Now,
you asked me as a city of Van resident, you're 100% right. That wasn't maturity. And Van, the city of Van, doesn't need to be a training ground. We're not a training ground.
Well, even if you are, I promise you go to the boot camp of the military where that is a training ground, you're not going to see immaturity. Immaturity is washed out quickly because immaturity does not survive on the battlefield. Well, even out here in law enforcement, I believe the same thing. Maturity is you got to be a starting point from maturity, because the only way you can serve the public is from a mature perspective. And if you're not serving that public in a mature perspective, then I don't see how you can be a good public servant. And that right there to me is how I'm going to leave it with that. Is that was an approach not only of ignorance but of immaturity. And
no, you're 100% right. And I can tell you the flip side of that too. Charlie Lunsford, he's a DPS officer. I know Charlie. Charlie, it's crazy. I wouldn't say we're friends. We're close acquaintances. When we had a restaurant going, he'd come get food. We talk about stuff. I'll send him questions. We argue about everything. I don't think Charlie and I agree on anything that has anything to do with the law enforcement. I mean, you know, Charlie just takes a different approach to that.
right.
A number of years ago, not all that long ago, it was during the Dominique Horton thing, Tonda Curry had made threats to me for some stuff I did, basically saying I was going to get arrested. And I was supposed to speak at the city council meeting that night, and I was absolutely sure, and I guess Tonda Curry was sure, that I was going to make some kind of a scene at the Van City Council. So when I pulled in, there was more police officers sitting in the parking lot than there was cars. I kid you not. I think every officer within a 100-mile radius was at the Van City Council meeting.
Right.
And I did. I got up and spoke, but the very first officer I seen, and it wasn't by accident, was Charlie Lunsford. And he's like, hey, he was very, very upfront about it. He's like, hey, I just want you to know I'm here to protect your speech. I'm here to protect you, you know, while you say what you have to say. And you know what lines you can't cross. You know, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but just know I'm here. I'm here to protect you. And I 100% believe that. He has stepped in other places and, you know, he said, oh, well, this was wrong. This was right. He's very upfront. Those are the type of officers, and I'm not saying everybody needs to be a Charlie Lunsford because he's kind of hard to argue with, but
Right.
I mean, he absolutely understands the rights, your rights and freedoms, and he's even above the law that he upholds. I believe that that's his prime focus.
Right.
And I wish more officers could understand that.
And as I've always said, to me, intent is it speaks volumes. And I can't find positive intent in anything that officer did in that stop that day. The officer that you talked, his intent was to protect you, to serve the public. If you're out there serving the public and you're protecting the people,
his intent was to protect me. I believe the other 30 officers that were there to get me. Like, I truly do believe that. Like, it was, I wouldn't say it was a bit of a showdown. It was a very tense time inside City Hall. I can say that. And no, to make a long story short, I didn't get arrested.
Yeah. And Jason, I'm sorry, Rampke, I think's what your name is. He said, always record public officials in the course of their duties. They lie every day. And I will say this, I watch enough Dateline to know, lying is allowed in the game. So yes, most definitely. And I will say this, I've been doing this long enough that law enforcement is not opposed to CYA. They will cover their asses any way they have to, just like any other human being out there. So it's best to have your ducks in a row. Like I said, we do thank all the honest law enforcement out there. I know several. I know a lot. I've got a lot of law enforcement friends, and we want to say thank you to them. And I'm not saying anything negative against Van Police Department as a whole. Unfortunately, the representative we saw on air today was not their best face, and that's what I'll say about that.
Well, when we talk about recording public officials and you talk about the CYA, that phone call that Michael Jarrett referenced, that's why you record your public officials.
Right.
And I mean, what makes that kind of funny to me is it was one public official recording the other public official who was obviously out to get Michael Jarrett under, like, at whatever expense,
right,
whatever it took, he was out to get Michael Jarrett. And enough so that he was talking to the police. And the fact that our chief recorded that whole conversation, I mean, 2 thumbs up.
Good job, Dorian.
Yeah, no, excellent job.
You know, and as I say, record them because they're recording you.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, why do you want them to have the whole narrative and you not? Because narrative can be flipped and flopped. But other than that, like I said, again, I want to thank, and Ryan, welcome back, baby. I'm so happy you came back.
I couldn't miss this. I had a choice. I could either weld up this tabletop stand today. I'm being a welder for the next couple days, or I could come in here to this air conditioned room and do an interview on something that I'm very passionate about.
Well, I appreciate you, and I want to thank Corbin for your input over there. Hey, Corbin, let's go ahead and roll some lunch specials today. He told me to hold on, so we're holding the pattern. Okay, Milano's Pizza. If you're out there looking for lunch today, they got that all-you-can-eat buffet. They got chicken. They got pizza. They got honey butter biscuits. So get in there to Milano's, get you some good food. They got the family special. That's one large specialty, one large 3 topping for $31.99. And I'll tell you right now, it'll feed a family. So get over there and get you some good grub. We've also got tracks starting tomorrow. They're bringing back the Indian headdress. And I tell you what, guys, everything they make is from scratch, and it is good home cooking. Anytime you go over there to eat, it feels like you're going over somebody's house. 100 North Main Street, home of the 2 Salty Brides. Right as you cross the tracks, look for a parking spot because they got the mural on the wall. Go in there and get you some good old scratch cooking, and look at the knickknacks they got on the shelves. We also got Sherman Floor Care. Y'all give them a call, 214-434-8012. They do upholstery, air ducts, carpet, pet treatments, rugs, tile, and grout. Y'all get 20% off if you tell them you saw it on VZTV. Or go over to VZ Equipment Rental right there at the intersection of 17 and 64 in Canton. If you're coming down 17 and your brakes fail, you're going to run right into their big bay door.
Who owns that? Do you know?
I know a guy named Steve owns it, and Julio works there. I don't know last names or anything like that, but I do know this. If you walk in there and call Julio Sweet D, he'll give you 15% discount on all of your equipment rentals. So give him a call at 903-376-5818.
Steve was a good customer at our restaurant, and I can't think of what his last name is, but he's a cool guy.
Yeah, I've met him several times. I think he gets annoyed because I always show up while he's trying to get work done, and I think I get on his nerves a little bit because I'm always there wanting money. But they got the best kind of equipment you can get. So y'all go check them out down there at VZ Equipment Rental.
He's a cool guy.
Also, Roma Italian Restaurant, guys. Y'all, this is top-notch dining in a small town. Y'all go get that Italian food. There's the lunch special right there. You can see if you're hungry for some Italian, that is right there. You can't beat that kind of good grub. Y'all go check them out. They're on the east end of town there at 519 East Garland Street. Or you can give them a call at 903-913-4099 or 903-913-4100 and get your order in the kitchen and go by and pick it up. Also, stop by Sonic and get a hold of that $7 big meal deal. As you can tell, that's a lot of food for $7. So go get you a lunch. That'll make you have to take a nap because there's so much food. You'll get plenty full for $7. Go check them out, Grand Sling and Edgewood. Also, is that the updated deal? All right, Corbin, come up with it. We got Taco Tuesday going on at the Dairy Bar. And, guys, I want to let you know, the Dairy Bar is more than just a mom-and-pop restaurant. It's a hometown hangout. I've been going there since I was in high school. There's a lot of memories there, and the people are keeping that nostalgia going strong. Today, y'all go get y'all some Taco Tuesday. Go follow their Facebook. They have an Indian Irish special. They always got good grub at good prices, and you're never going to find any better service. So y'all go check them out. We also got coming soon the VZTV Golf Simulated Touring League, the STL. That is going to be our new golfing league held over at Eagles Nest Golfing Lounge. And the first season is going to happen, I think, in September sometime. We're going to have the coaches versus players. Right now, it's going to be Grand Saline coaches versus Grand Saline players. So we got Coach Hass and Coach Chastain against a bunch of their players. The next season after that, we're hoping to bring in 8+ handicap players so we get some professional level golf going on. Find out who's the best around. Speaking of the best around, we got the Battle of the Businesses. Y'all be sure and give us a call. If you want to be a Battle of the Business, show us you're the best in business around. We're going to have 3-hole qualifiers. You come in. If you're the best in the 3-hole qualifier, you move to the championship qualifier. 2 9-hole rounds. We're going to take the top 2 out of each round. We're going to move the final 4 over to the championship finals. First place gets $1,500. Second place gets $1,000. And third place gets $500. Y'all be sure, sign up today and show us your best in business. We are going to be covering Edgewood Bulldog football a little bit this year as we kick off our new show, The Blitz Zone, here on Grand Saline Sun VZTV. The Blitz Zone. Think about this. The Red Zone on ESPN, except for it's Van Zandt County football, and we're hoping to catch in a whole lot of local surrounding district competition as well. So we wanted to throw a little bit of gold and purple out there so we can show everybody that we're dusting off the Edgewood Enterprise banner, and we're going to bring a little bit of Bulldog action this football season. And that is all we got for today. Ryan, do you got anything else to say before we get out of here?
God bless Texas.
God bless Texas. I love America.
Yeah. I love America also. And, you know, you started out with your smoke signals talking about the spectrum from top to bottom. People just need to really be aware of what their rights are and know that they can be taken away.
They're precious. If you look, and as I put, you look at that little island out there near India that has no government. They are isolated. They kill people when they walk up on the beaches because they're so afraid, is what they assume, that it's attack, it's protection. And now to
it's a safe assumption.
And now they have to protect it because they've never had any human interaction, so they're protecting them from biological. They did pull a couple people off the island. They went to I think it was India, and within a week they were dead because they'd gotten some bacteria that they weren't acquainted to. So you don't want to go to that kind of antiquated existence. But on the other end, we definitely don't want to go to where you can't have lights at night. And if you crop the head off of the statue of your president, you're going to be beheaded yourself. We don't want to go in that. We need to realize that we have something that is very precious here, and it is very fickle. Just like anything, like a baby, like a puppy, anything that is precious, you must treat it with care.
Absolutely.
And you have to fight to defend it. And your rights are precious, and you have to fight to defend them. And I don't care if you're doing it with a cell phone or if you're like Michael Jarrett here and will stand up toe-to-toe and call an officer an idiot. It does not matter how you fight for your rights. Just understand your rights are there, and they must be defended or they won't be. And I will wrap up with this one last saying that I think it speaks volumes. If you will give up your security for liberty, you don't deserve either. Fight the good fight, guys, right here on VZTV.